Hello, people out there in the world.
Hello.
And Pete. People out there in the world and Pete. Welcome to the Brazil Expat Journal, the BJ you can trust. Because there aren't that many BJs out there you can trust nowadays. They may have COVID.
Yeah, true
So,
enough.
how's things with you, Peter Baird?
Not so bad. Not so bad.
This is good. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm coming off of a little bit of a cold, but I'm surviving. I thought I did have COVID, actually, speaking of COVID, and the but I had just gotten tested. Like I got tested on a Wednesday, and then like that same day I started to get the sniffles. But then I was like, man, I remembered what Pete said. Like when you get it, like you just lose all taste and smell. Do you lose smell too when you get COVID, or just taste?
Yes, yes, yes. But I
Yeah.
mean,
So
it's
I was
pretty
like,
much impossible. It's pretty much impossible to test negative and then like get symptoms 48 hours later. It takes like at least 10 days. So yeah, there's pretty much no chance you had it.
well, I feel way better today. I was more worried because I
Oh,
had
that's
to
good.
perform on Saturday, and I didn't know if I was gonna have a voice, but I had a good time. And we got a few viewers. Oh yeah, we got people joining us. Hello guys, welcome to the show. Tonight it's kind of a free for all, and we will be talking about things that we love about Brazil. I got a little bit of a top 10 list, but we'll follow it. Maybe we won't follow it, and we'll definitely uh, listen to anything you got to mention about things that you love about Brazil. And this is part one. So, you know, if we're going to talk about things we love about Brazil, we got to talk about the things we hate about Brazil. But that's going to be a different podcast, you know, where we can complain about the things that can be frustrating down here. But today's a love fest. Today we're doing a Brazil love fest. Um, but yeah, I'm feeling much better. And I did play on Saturday at Central Chaos, and Pete. This is gonna be a little loud, guys, but Pete did manage to videotape something. And there's us. What up, guys? Hello, Shiloh. So, if you're in Sao Paulo and you want to listen to some rock and roll, blues, soul, we sneak in a couple pop tunes in there too, um, just to mix it up a bit. Come out, enjoy the night, and actually, that's going to be one of the things that's going to be on my list of things that I love about Brazil. Shyla, by the way, is in Bahia. So Shyla, tell us what you love about that part of the country, because Pete and I are down here in the very cold and concrete-ish Sao Paulo, and I'm sure there are so many
Mm-hmm.
beautiful things to enjoy up in the northern part of the country. Northeast, actually. Bahia is like the beginning of the northeast of the country. And I do want to give a shout out to a few people. One is Ada, which I finally met. She's an expat that's been here for the longest time, and we've always missed each other by just like minutes sometimes. One time it was like literally 5 minutes. Like she left and I arrived at this thing. And I want to give a shout out to our friend Watif. I won't give out too much information about what's happening to him, but he's going through a rough time right now. And just send your positive energies or whatever it is that you believe in to Watif. And that's it, guys. That's it. We're gonna get right to it. Not much news. Is there any news that you want to bring up, Pete? I can't think of anything other than the usual malarkey.
No, no, not much happening. It's pretty much
I
status
mean,
quo.
yeah, status quo. We're slowly getting out of lockdown, slowly getting vaccinated. Maybe by this time next year, we'll get to people my age. But
Yeah, that's actually the news is the speed of the vaccination rollout. I got a buddy who they're doing it by descending age, basically. And I have a friend who's 81, and he got his a couple months ago. But I also have a friend who's 60, and he's still waiting. So for folks around our age, it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. The U.S. is already like more than 40% vaccinated. They're like almost back to normal. There's concert
yes,
tours, there's live sporting events in some states, but yeah, we're a long way from that.
well, actually, that does bring up a little bit of news, and Shyla just made a comment down here, which I will read in a second because I loved her comment. But just a little bit of news is that they have something here called the CPI, which is this investigation. It's like a formal investigation by the government. And they're investigating the government. They're investigating Bolsonaro and his, um, like, what would you call it? Not even like his, the way he's handled or not handled the pandemic. And it could turn ugly for him. You know, they brought out a lot of evidence against him and how his administration did not handle this pandemic well at all. Everything from not buying vaccines when they were being offered to not having any federal government programs set up to this, that, and the third. And so that's news, I guess. And Bolsonaro went out on a motorcade this weekend, you know, with a bunch of motorcyclists. So that's what's happening in Brazil. But Chyla's already getting in the whole vibe of things, and she says, "I love and appreciate the fresh food, in particular the fruits and vegetables available at the markets. I'm a beach bum, so I absolutely love the beaches in Salvador too, and they do look beautiful. I've actually never been to Salvador, so that's on my hit list." And she's sending love and light to Watif, as all of us are. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. So love and light to Watif. So let's get to it, guys. I'm gonna share my screen here, and Pete's gonna be like my you gotta be fucking joking judge for some of the things that I say I'm gonna love about Brazil, and then he of course will add his own 2 cents. Um, but the first thing I'm gonna bring up, guys, is food. You know, I know this is a divisive topic. I know people that absolutely abhor Brazilian food, and I know people that absolutely love Brazilian food. I happen to like it a lot. Y- you know, compared to American food, and I did grow up in a Brazilian household, so maybe that's what like I'm kind of accustomed to eating rice, beans, you know, like something that's not um, made in a lab or something, you know, that's processed. I grew up in the
Right.
U.S., went there when I was 7 or 6, I can't remember. But one thing that I can remember is eating at a McDonald's once, and never eating at a Burger King, never at a Wendy's. I was a Taco Bell fiend, I will admit. So never did the fast food because I knew at home there would always be dinner ready, whether it was pasta. My father is Italian, so either there was some Italian dish, some pasta and lasagna, or there was some more Brazilian dish with the usual Latin, you know, chicken and beef and rice and veggies. So I grew up with that food, and coming to Brazil, just having more of it was like, okay, this is great, you know, like but the thing is, that's the basic Brazilian food. And that can get boring because that's been a criticism that I hear expats say. Oh, it's so boring. It's rice and beans every fucking day. The thing is,
Mm-hmm.
we're a little bit luckier being here in Sao Paulo because we get well, you can't say immigrants, migrants from all over the country. So you can go to a great restaurant with food from Minas Gerais. You can go to a restaurant with food from Bahia, you know, speaking of Shyla. You can go to a good restaurant with food from the Nordeste. So you can get some seafood. You can get some very traditional Brazilian dishes, your muqueca, which is like a shrimp, almost like a paella. You can get your pastas. You know, São Paulo has a big Italian. I mean, it's an Italian city basically. built by the Italians.
Yes.
So you get a nice variety here where you don't get as bored. I can understand the expats that say that who live in like some little town in the interior, and yeah, I think I would go crazy if it was like just rice and beans, rice and beans, rice and beans every freaking day. What are your thoughts on that, Pete, on Brazilian food?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't find Brazilian food to be all that unique. I guess that's the only criticism I'd have. It's still all basically European influence. So it's like, it's like meat with some rice and beans. That's the only major difference, and salad, and it's basically European influence cuisine. There's not much unique about it. And I mean, I say that like comparing it to like Asian food, for example, like Indian food, Chinese food, Japanese food. It's like a whole different ballgame. Brazilian food is not that different. I do think that I would put Brazilian cuisine in my top 10, but it would be like near the bottom of the top 10. I definitely rate American food higher, Italian, Mexican, Chinese. It's all better. But Brazilian food does have some good aspects to it. The things that I really like about it is the barbecue culture. I love going to like a real like home style Brazilian barbecue is a blast. The churrascarias are a blast. I love the espatinos. So yeah, I'm a carnivore. I love the meat. So if you're a vegetarian, that probably actually Brazil is probably not the country for you if you're a vegetarian. Brazilian cuisine is very meaty, but I am
Yeah.
not. So I love that aspect of it. And I like Brazilian fast food too, actually. We got a lot of good fast food here. The pastéis, the esfias. I'm a sucker for Habib's. It's disgusting. They use like lower quality meat than is used in dog food, apparently. But man, it's just like it's good cheap. It's good cheap eats. So yeah, even the coxinas, make a nice breakfast food. There's not a lot of traditional Brazilian dishes that I'm all that crazy about. There's some I actually still haven't tried. I do like the feijoada, but that stuff is wow. It's heavy shit.
It's
For
very
those,
heavy.
yeah, for those not familiar with it, feijoada is a traditional black bean and pulled pork stew served over rice, and it goes down like a brick. But it's good stuff. A carajé is pretty good. I think it's a northeastern food actually, but a
Yeah, that's from
carajé is
Bahia. Let me actually share some images here while you're talking of food from Bahia. But go ahead.
yeah. I know Brazil has a long history of seafood in their cuisine, but it's very regional. If you don't live on the coast, then you don't really get much exposure to seafood because inland, for some reason, it's ridiculously expensive. But on the
Yes.
coast, it's a lot cheaper. So yeah, I would
Well,
love to try some good Brazilian seafood, but unfortunately, I have not.
well, there's my favorite, the muqueca right there. Oof. It's like this shrimp stew that you get up in Bahia, and absolutely delicious, absolutely delicious. So you're talking about seafood. There's a nice little plate of feijoada right there. So
Yeah,
the seafood, yeah, you got to get it on the coast. I see here Catherine. Hey, Catherine, meow. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us, Guru Indiano, and Shyla, of course. And she says, I like Brazilian food, but I wish there was more of a variety of food. For being such a tropical place that a lot of spices could and should be grown here, it's mostly salt here in dishes with bay leaves. And Catherine, yes, salt
yeah.
is a
Brazilians
spice.
are not big on spice here.
Yes, salt is a spice down here. They just douse everything in salt, and it's so sad because, yeah, because of you would think there would be more spices, and there are actually. That's the thing, is there are, but they just don't use them unless you get a few states, Pete. where you get some real spicy stuff.
Well, they
And
say that Bahia food is spicy, but I mean, a carajé is a Bahia dish that's supposed to be ooh so spicy, and I mean, honestly, you could feed that shit to a baby.
I never, I'm not a huge fan of food from Bahia because I don't like seafood that much. But I have eaten food from like Maranhão, like states that are a little bit further north than Bahia are really hot. Like in actually, I had an experience once with some hot sauce from one of these states up higher. I forgot the name now. Like, but north of Bahia, and man, Pete, I had been in Brazil for maybe 6, 7 years, and I'm already like you. I'm like, man, what they say is hot. You could feed to a baby. So I put a little bit of this hot sauce in this food, and I thought I was gonna die. Like I asked the guy, "Where did you make this?" And he's like, "Yeah, in my basement." And I was
Oh,
like,
nice.
"That's the hot sauce that you need from some guy any place north of Bahia." Like that's when the shit starts to really get spicy, and
Right.
and then you get a lot of flavors. Food from Pará, very flavorful. So it's tougher to get down here in São Paulo because it's so far. We're so far south of these places. But it's not a myth that Brazilians like spices. It's just that it's tougher to get down where we are and where most of the expats are. And Rio, forget about it. Rio is like the most bland food I've had in my life. Sao Paulo, you get a little bit more variety. People travel a little bit more down here, I guess, because they got a little bit more money, so their palates are used to a few different things. But that northeast stuff, man, you got to be careful with that northeast stuff. Let me see here. We got Guru Indiano said Brazil is great. Oh, Guru Indiano. We just had him on our podcast last week, guys.
We did.
Um, please check out Esvar, who, by the way, I want to reply to a comment. I replied to it on the page, but somebody was a little upset with Esvar because they said, oh, he doesn't know anything about Brazil and things like that. And I disagree. I thought he was a great guest. He is someone who hasn't been here as long as some of us, so maybe he's not going to know every
Mm-hmm.
in and out of Brazil. But the idea of the Brazil Expat Journal is to showcase all different aspects of being in Brazil, whether you're just a backpacker, in what are your experiences as a backpacker. In fact, I'm trying to get my friend back on, who he was here for a year and he traveled to almost every single state. Of course, he's not going to know every in and out of Brazilian culture, but it's still an awesome experience that he had traveling to almost every single state in Brazil. So Esvar was great
Absolutely.
because he wrote this book that had nothing to do with Brazil, and we just kind of asked him on the spot. We put him on the spot and kind of asked him, "Hey, how can this relate to doing business down here from the day-to-day level of going to a padaria up to actually closing big deals?" And I thought he was great. I loved having Esvar on and hope to have him on again in the future. So I disagree with that comment down there, but feel free to disagree with us and comment below. We love it. Were you going to say something, Pete? Shyla here said she's a pescatarian. I enjoy getting in the lab and creating dishes inspired by Brazilian cuisine, infused by my own cuisine. And she says she doesn't like acarajé and it's not spicy. Okay. And she also wants to give a shout out to my homeboy who lives in Rio and sells spices. His company is called Sol Temperos. Hmm. And Catherine here says, I have a question. Why is shrimp so expensive? Oh, it is. Although I got a good deal on shrimp maybe 2 months ago. I don't know what happened, but the shrimp was cheaper than the meat. The meat got real expensive. And what are some good seafood dishes that are affordable to keep an eye out for? She's in Rio, so I'm not sure my answer is going to be good for Rio. I know for São Paulo it's expensive because Brazil unfortunately does not have a good transport system, does not have good infrastructure for that. No railways, stuff like that. So it's coming in via trucks. The transport alone is what. Oh, Pete's back. The transport alone is what raises the prices for a lot of these things, especially seafood, because we're so inland. Now, in
Yeah.
Rio, well, but you're not getting stuff from Rio, man, because those that water is very dirty. So it's probably being transported in too. I would imagine that would be the main reason. Um, I
Yeah.
can try.
The thing is, here we're like 3 hours from the coast. Like, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be that freaking expensive. Like $50 for a small bag of shrimp.
No, but it is because of how expensive it is just to transport here, Pete. It's like insane prices. I mean, that's why we had like these the trucker strikes, a whole bunch of times. They're always upset with the price of diesel, the price of the tolls on the road, the taxes they put on everything. But I'm actually googling here to see what we can find. But if not, I'll definitely research that and I'll give you an answer next week. So that gives you a reason to listen up for next week, Catherine, where we will give the flip side, things we don't like about Brazil. Now, before we move on to another topic of something that I do like about living here, let me just show you guys a little bit of what Pete was talking about, which is um, the salgados. You know, salgados are part of the Brazilian culture. That's what they call them, which are these little, breakfast foods, quick foods that you eat. You know, pão de
Snacks.
queijo is very famous. The coxinha, the
Mm-hmm.
kibe. I love kibe. Kibe is delicious. You know, this ground meat. It's actually, I think it's Arabic, or it comes from the
It
Middle
is.
East.
It is Arabic. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Habib's actually markets itself as a Middle Eastern restaurant, but
In the same way,
it's
Taco Bell is Mexican, guys. Keep that in
yeah,
mind. But yes, we got these fijas, which are delicious. I love them. Just like some ground beef inside, like a little pastry. Empada is another
yeah. I
pastry.
like the open ones, man. The open
I
ones that they
prefer the
sell at
open ones to the
Habib's for
closed one,
like
but
one
some closed
real.
ones,
Yeah,
they just make it just right so like everything like melts in your mouth. Pão de batata,
yeah,
I've eaten, not bad. It's like a potato bread. And then you get this little thing that's rolled up, enrolado, with some ham and cheese, little
yes. Enrolados are
pastels.
very good.
Mm-hmm. Pastel, you got to go to. I got to share my video here of my trek through the Feta. I'll do that at some point. And little mandioca, bauru, which is this little thing here, this little closed pastry with some ham and cheese in the middle, and an
And
empanada
tomato.
de carne. You go
Yeah,
to any little boteco, which we call boteco, is like this these little
it's like the
uh,
pub. It's the Brazilian version of the pub.
virtual hug from Carol, thriving abroad. I love Carol. She's got a great channel, guys. When I see her videos up, I always check them out because she talks to expats. We talk about Brazil. She's global. She talks to these expats living all over the world, which is really cool. And Shyla says, Pete, I love how you like Habibs.
Yeah, I haven't had it in forever. I used to live like really near the one at Opozo Kilometer 12, but since I moved down the road, I just haven't had access to it in a while.
I'm on Quora here for Catherine. Um, and somebody asked, why is shrimp so expensive? 50 reais for a kilogram in the south of the country.
Yeah,
Um, but the guy here says it's actually not a bad price, because if you get a whole picanha, okay, 2 kilos are 80 reais, which is what I said.
yeah,
Like I went to the supermarket, like it was in January or so, and the price of meat really went up this year. And then I looked at the shrimp, and I was like, it was like 20 reais for a nice little, um, nice little, what do you call those things? Platter or whatever of shrimp. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna take it home, fry this up, you know. kind of butter it up, and I was having a good time with that shrimp. But
Yeah. I bought a bag not long ago to make some Thai food, some
mhm.
tom yum. But man, it was like I ate all the shrimp like the first day. I had to go get another bag, so I wound up spending like $100 to make this Thai dish just because it called for shrimp.
Yeah, but most people here are just saying because of the amount of work that's involved to get shrimp and conserve it. And I think for me, that has to do with travel. I mean, one thing, almost everything in Brazil is going to be a little bit more expensive because of not import, because of taxes in general. But when you
Hmm.
start talking about stuff that needs to be moved in and out, guys, it's one of, well, I don't want to go into the things we don't like about Brazil, but unfortunately, it's a bad thing about Brazil. Brazil never invested in its railroad infrastructure. It's all trucks, trucks,
No.
trucks. Stuff takes forever to get from one place to another, and it's expensive. So that creates a burden, a price burden for everybody, not just with food, but with almost everything. So that's the unfortunate truth if you're in Brazil, is that some food's going to be expensive, even food that's from the country. But
Hmm.
anyway, let's move on to something else that I love about Brazil, and it's something that now I am a official part of. Music outings. Local music is everywhere, and a lot of times it's
Hmm.
free. And
Yeah.
Catherine is in Rio, and one thing that's nice about Rio, I'm not a huge fan of the city, is that you can just walk out of your apartment, walk down the beach, and there's gonna be some guys playing some pagode or some samba, or just some guy playing his guitar. Bunch of little clubs, so much music everywhere. Like Brazil's a very musical country. São
Hmm.
Paulo's not much different. I imagine Shyla. Actually, I've seen videos of Shyla in the middle of Salvador, and the guys there from Olodum just playing their drums and stuff. So you can't get away from music in Brazil. I know Pete's a big fan of this, so I'm gonna let him go here with the music outings.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons actually why I settled on Brazil because I was originally my intention just to go somewhere in South America. I wasn't like didn't have any particular investment in Brazil, but music was definitely a big thing for me because throughout my life, live music has basically been the focal point of my social life. I want to go out, want to go see a show. And Brazil in general, of course, it has a great history of music. It's the birthplace of bossa nova. It's the birthplace of samba. Um, but it has a lot of other musical genres here as well. What I like about the music in Brazil is that okay, Sao Paulo is probably on par with any city in the world, and I mean, like I would include like New York and London in that category in terms of having music. Like any big concert that is on tour, we're gonna get it here in Sao Paulo, which is nothing at the moment, but back in the day, we did get like all the big concerts. But what I like about Brazil is that even if you're living in like some small town of a few 100,000 people, there's going to be at least three or four live houses probably where you are going to get to see live music regularly. It may just be like cover bands and stuff, but most towns in Brazil have like a few local bands that do original tunes and have a following. And this is something I found when I lived in Jundiaí. I lived in Jundiaí my first year in Brazil. And yeah, they had like three or four live music bars. They had a few local bands. Some of them weren't actually from Jundiaí, they were from, the neighboring cities. But they played shows on a fairly regular basis. And it's cool that they had that because, I mean, in China, Beijing had an amazing scene. But once you got out of Beijing, and got into provincial cities. When I say provincial cities, I mean, cities that still have populations of like 3, 4 million people. There's nothing. There was really nothing going on outside of like the major international cities. And in Brazil, it seems like no matter where you are, there's always some kind of music scene. And as you said, it's often free. Prior to COVID, Bhutan, there used to be tons of free shows going on here at Casa Cultural Butanta and Butanta Casa Cultural, which are two completely different places in vastly different parts of Butanta. But they're basically like community centers, and they would put on a lot of free shows. Families would come out, check them out on Sunday afternoons. They used to do free things on Polista Avenue, which was great. There's also a place I can't remember what it's called, but it's really near Terminal Banderas, and there's a little community center there that used to do free shows on a regular basis as well. So it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're looking for like a big 60,000 person stadium concert with some of the top names, or just some like local indie band putting on a free show at a community center or on the street, we got it all, or we used to. These days, there's not much going on, but there are a few places still putting on shows. I
We're
have to say.
coming back slowly but surely. By the way, we'll be playing next Saturday once more, so show up at Central Chaos. And you can just go on their Instagram page, which I will put here in the comments. If I can find the at symbol, there it is. At Central Chaos. So support your local musicians. And yes, everything Pete said is exactly how I feel. A lot of free stuff, and that stuff on, and there are sites like Catraca Livre. Those of you that don't know, Catraca Livre is a site on the web that tells you everything you can do for free. Okay, a catraca is the turnstile, so it's like a free turnstile. Let's say, because usually when you pay for a show, you got to go through the turnstile to get inside the event center. Well, this is the free
Mm-hmm.
turnstile. Okay, and they have everything you can imagine from food events, although they're not always free, but but they'll give us cheap food events, let's say. But parks, outdoor music, museum expositions, whatever. Sometimes even movies, and if it's not free, it'll be real cheap. Like I remember once, Pete, I went to an Iranian film festival at
Oh
the
yeah,
Sesky. Sesky has a movie theater which is really nice on Augusta. It was
yes,
wild. It
I
was
know
like,
the one.
yeah, it was like .5 reais. It was great. And it's nothing that you would ever know existed unless you went to these sites. So if you see on the screen there, it's in the blue. Just write that down. Saint Catraca Livre, very cool site. Number three on my list is that socializing is easy. Friends for a night, but not for life. You got to remember that part, though. Okay,
Yeah.
like, and I learned that the hard way. I thought like nobody loved me. Maybe nobody does, but you felt it a little bit stronger here in Brazil because you go out by yourself sometimes on a Saturday night, Sunday night, whatever, and you just start talking to like some stranger. You start drinking. You exchange phone numbers, and then you expect to like talk to that person again, and you never see them again. It's always the famous Brazilian line. I'm sure you guys know. Vamos marcar. If you hear somebody say this, vamos marcar. Let's set something up. Let's set something up. You're never gonna see them. Um, But the flip side of that is after you get past, the heartache of knowing that the people that you meet on that wonderful Saturday night that you think are going to be your best, you know, pub crawling buddies for your whole stay here, is that you can go out the next Saturday night and find new best pub crawling buddies, for the night. And I really enjoyed that about Brazil because in the US, I don't know if we have that culture as much. It's a much more, I got to feel you out first. Combinado. Yeah, there's another good one. Yeah, combinado. You got to feel people out first. And and then once you feel them out, you kind of see, oh, he's a good dude. Okay, then let's hang out. Let's hang out again, and we'll hang out again, and we'll keep seeing each other. But I can't remember like one time that I went out in the U.S. just either by myself or maybe just me and another person, and I ended up making 5 to 10 quote unquote friends. I don't
Right.
remember. In Brazil, you make that like at 9 o'clock, and the party goes until 2. So
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool. It's very cool here how open it is, but just keep that asterisk in your mind that it's not a real friendship. It's like friends for the night. How has your experience with that
Yeah.
been?
It for me, like I picked up on that pretty quickly, especially because when I lived in Jundiaí, I'd come into Sao Paulo once a month, and like you said, you'd always like no matter where you went, you were always meeting people. You were getting phone numbers, add me on Facebook, add me on Instagram, all this shit.
Or Cooch?
But if you actually, yeah, but if you actually like, contact them in advance and say, "Hey, I'm going to be in Sao Paulo on this day. Do you want to like get together?" They'll be like, "Yeah, well, we'll see." And that basically means like probably not. So I am familiar with that, but living in Sao Paulo, how I've really dealt with that is, back when things were pretty happening, I would just have certain places that I would go, and these would often be the places that where I met people, and those single serving friends, as Tyler Durden called them. I would occasionally encounter them again at the places where we met, and if I didn't, then I'd meet other people. So I found just by having like regular habits, regular places you go, regular types of things you do, you don't have to force those kind of pseudo friendships. It's like if you're hanging out at the same places, doing the same things, then you're going to see the same people, and then it's not like awkward, like you want to hang out and put them in a position of having to say like, because Brazilians hate saying no, but they mean no a lot of the times they don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just found by having regular habits, regular places you go, you do tend to kind of maintain contact, and not have to actually make that effort to get people to come out. It's like, I'm going to go to a show, and maybe I'll see you there. Go to an open bar event, might see you
That's a
there.
Pete, that's a great tip, and I'd love to hear from folks that are in other parts of Brazil if you have if it's that same kind of culture. I have a feeling that it is, but I haven't been north of. No, actually, I went to Espírito Santo, which I loved, but I haven't been north of that. So I don't know if that fly by night type of feel is the same throughout Brazil. But what Pete said is so true, though. You don't kind of force it after a while. Like in the beginning, I used to try to force it because I thought it was so rude. It's like, what's up?
Yeah,
Like I thought we were buddies. I thought we were friends. What happened? And then the person just disappears.
yeah,
But then it ends up, oh, if you're ending, if you end up going to the same type of places, you end up seeing and those same people. And then after a while, you kind of get tired of it. Then you're like, I need to find new places to hang out. Um, Now, we got some people on the chat here that I want to say hi to. And first is Travelmatic, and he said, "Salute Kings, found you through Yusef's channel, so thank you, thank you, Watif doing it. See, Watif's working even when he's not working. So
yeah,
thank you." And Shila's message I put back up here, sending love and light to Watif. And Sid, I found out as a YouTube channel, man. I got to get this guy on. He's an interesting character. I've been listening to some of your videos, Sid. I didn't comment yet, but I had no idea you had a whole channel going, and it's real nice. And he talks very inspirational. in positive people, people that are doing things, and are actually trying to make something out of their lives. So I am enjoying your channel, Sid. I subscribed, so thank you for putting out good content. And Travelmatic says he's just being a fly on the wall. I went to Sao Paulo, Salvador, and Rio last year, and it changed my life. How did it change your life? I'd love to hear
In
that.
2020, yeah, in 2020, it doesn't exactly. Well, no, there's lots of life changing opportunities. It's just
There
mostly
are.
not for the
And
better.
speaking of Watif, remember what when we interviewed Watif, that was the last question that I asked him is how did not Rio, Brazil change you? And I believe it has changed him, and even though he was kind of not wanting to admit it, but I
Yeah.
think it's changed him for the better. And it's hard to come to Brazil and not get changed in some way. It's a country that's intense emotions down here, good and bad, and so it
No, I
affects
think
you
it's
one
hard
way
to
or
live in
another.
any foreign environment and not be changed by it.
Let me see. Well, this is true. This is true. Did some videos on my YouTube channel. Definitely check me out. I will do that. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll see your subscription. I'll subscribe right back. I always do that. Always support each other's channels, guys. Um, because it's a labor of love. We like to just share our experiences. Um, Actually, Pete, I did meet a nice girl who's in Thailand right now. She's there with her boyfriend.
Okay.
I'm trying to get an angle on how we could get her on to talk about stuff in Brazil, but she planned on coming to
It's a
Brazil.
huge time difference. Huge time difference.
Yes, yes. She planned to come down here, but COVID's kept her and her boyfriend in uh, Thailand for now. And then one that I think almost everybody will agree with: adventures in nature. Brazil's nature is stunning, as they say in Portuguese. É uma terra abençoada por Deus. It's a land that's been blessed by God. And good Lord, even here in Sao Paulo. Oh, I'm gonna get you travel. I'll definitely check your channel out. Like I said, I'm always snooping around. So I found out Sid had a channel and he's got some real good content. So I will definitely be checking you out. Okay. And yeah, man. I mean, nature tourism is a big deal down here. Real good stuff that you can find, even in Sao Paulo. Like just last week, and I forgot to do it again, but I found this real nice park just going down Raposo, which I plan on having a picnic at with some of the expats down here. You're invited, Pete, by the way. And you would never think that Sao Paulo had so much green, but it does. So even a city as congested as this one, full of buildings and concrete, has a lot of green areas. And then you start to get into the interior, into the north, even in the deep south, some of those canyons down in the deep south, it's gorgeous. So if you like nature, Brazil is the place for you. Go out there, build a little hut somewhere. I know a girl who is she's building, what do you call those? Like container homes. She's building a container home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, out in the interior of somewhere. And good for her. I mean, I don't think I could do it, but good for her. So, how, how have your experiences been with nature, Pete, other than, getting stuck in quicksand?
Yeah, yeah, not so much. Of course, I am notoriously ill-traveled in Brazil. I've been here almost 7 years, and I haven't left the state of Sao Paulo. So I have not really experienced much of the nature. I would love to. And in fact, during this time, I actually have the flexibility to be able to work from anywhere. So, I mean, I really have considered the idea of just like going out somewhere into the country or by the beach that has Wi-Fi and just chilling for a while. But I haven't even seen the coast yet. The extent of my nature experiences, besides being stuck in quicksand, is probably living in Jundiaí. I mean, Jundiaí, it's a small city, but there's some really nice park areas. I mean, in the city center itself, the parks are pathetic. But if you get a little further away from the city center. There's a really nice park where they have the Grape Festival every year. I believe they didn't have it this year for obvious reasons, but yeah, it's really nice out there. But that's about it. I mean, in Sao Paulo, even I can't say that I've seen a lot that's particularly impressed me. Ibirapuera Park is nice, of course, but it's not a place I get to all that often. And I can't think of anything else that has even really come close to that. I used to live near a park at Villa Lobos, actually, which is kind of a nice park, but it's very flat, so you can see like the urban jungle around you. You don't feel
Yeah.
like you're in the middle of nowhere. Plus, you can also smell the pineros as well. So.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of nice parks down here. My favorite is Agua Branca Park. So if you ever,
That's a very nice park. Yes.
and that one is funny because it's so small, but you kind of can get a little bit lost in there. Like you kind of you
Mm-hmm.
don't hear the traffic. It's funny. Like it's a lot smaller than Parque Raposo Tavares that you said. What was the other one? The Villa Lobos.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get totally lost in there. I'll show you some pictures of some parks here. The one that I went to is this one. Wait up. And Craig, thanks for dropping in, Craig. And Craig's actually uh, gonna try to join us. I think he's back from the U.S. He had traveled to the U.S. Um, but I'm trying to find a nice picture of this park here. Parque Jequitinhonha. That's the park that I went to. Let me see. It's live podcasting, guys. So give me a second here to look at this. You would never imagine that this was like right in my backyard. Let me share this screen right here. There you go. So look at that. Parque Jequitibá. It was made 13 years ago. Okay. This is a little old.
Mm-hmm.
It says that it wasn't open yet, but now it's open. So you go down these trails, man. It's huge. I think they said it's like 1 million acres or something, real big. And in the middle of it, you get this you get this very beautiful like central area where you can have picnics and stuff like that. So a lot of green, where uh, in São Paulo, but throughout Brazil, you got the Pantanal. You have Rio is full of trails and a whole bunch of stuff that you can go to. Um, Sid says, I'd love to be on your channel. Brazil made a big impact on me too. I understand how Travelmatic feels. Maybe both of you guys can come on and talk about how Brazil changed your life from an expat point of view. I'm gonna try to set that up. Sid, I think you're following me on Facebook, so send me a hello on Facebook and let's try to connect me, you, in Travelmatic, and maybe I can have both of you guys on. That would be a great conversation of how Brazil changed you, even now that you are out of Brazil. There's Craig saying, "All good. How are things in Salvador? I love the boat tour I did across the Bay of Saints to Dos Frades in Ilha Itaparica. Great experience for $15 U.S. day tour. The Saints dos Frades. Oh, guys, I love it when you hit me up with stuff like this, but then I gotta look it up. It's, oh my God, this is gorgeous. Look at this, Pete. Let me put it here on the screen. This is absolutely gorgeous. By the way, guys, I want to thank you for joining us and interacting. It's a whole lot more fun. Look at that, Pete. Good Lord.
Nice.
That's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like, oh, there it is. That's what he did right there. He went on this boat tour.
Yeah.
Frades in Itapirica
Nice.
Islands. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, guys, there's so much to explore here. And for the newbies, for those that don't know what Brazil is as far as size, I'm sure you guys have all seen a map of the US. Just kind of take the US and flip it north to south. That's more or less what you're
Yeah,
working with. You know, it's a
yeah,
lot of terrain. You know, so to say that Brazil was just Rio, just Sao Paulo, and maybe one extra city that you may have heard of, man, you're not even like that's like the tip of the iceberg of what Brazil is. And like I said, even now, the places that I'm finding just around me, you know, on Sunday I went all the way down to Cotia and I ran up the avenue. I ran from Cotia almost to my house, which is a long run. But on the way, so many green spaces, so many parks that I saw on the way. I was like, wow, this is like a place that I would want to live way down that away. Does anyone know the name of the park off Paulista Avenue near the Mekidis? I believe that's called
yes.
Parque
That's
Trianon.
Trianon,
Yes,
Trianon,
Trianon.
Trianon Park.
Yes,
Yeah,
which
that's a
is
nice little space. It's very small, but it's like this nice little patch of green in the midst of all the concrete. And when I was teaching on Polista, I used to go chill out there all the time, just like sit on a bench and listen to tunes for a while.
yeah, and that's another one that's similar to the Agua Branca Park in that it's
Hmm.
not that big, but when you get in there, you kind of don't hear the sound of the city. I'm going to put it up here on the screen
Yeah.
for you guys to see. So it's built just well enough where, man, these Brazilian sites suck because like they don't have, oh, there it is. Like they have like one picture of the park on the site. All right, I got a nice site right here. So yeah, Craig, this is Parque Trianon Mas. If you guys want to share any parks around your way, if you're outside of São Paulo, of course, share because the idea here is always to give people as many tips as possible. And there you go, Trianon Park. Small, but nice place to run, to jog. You know, it closes early, guys. So if you go there, you know, try to get there before 6. I think it closes at 6, and probably due to the pandemic, it's closing a little bit sooner. So that's Trianon Park right there, right off
Hmm.
Paulista, um, in front of the Maspi Museum, and then
Yes,
if you
yes.
and then if you go to Parque Agua Branca, there it is right there. Just the one Pete and I were talking about before, which is wonderful, man.
Yeah.
Very, very nice, relaxing park.
And it's
And
a
it's
good
got
neighborhood too.
it's a good neighborhood. There it is. You know, and I mean, oh yeah, there's like ducks and geese and everything going on down here, and it's a place where seriously, like when I go there, like I almost fall asleep. Like it's that relaxing. Like if you go deep inside of it, you know, you get all the geese. There's a few other farm animals around. So there it is. Oh, Shyla, you bring your little butt to Sao Paulo, and I will show you a good time. I'll take you all around. Uh, People don't know how great Sao Paulo is because they see pictures of like Centro, which is wonderful if you like the concrete jungle. I mean, I happen to like it, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like this is ugly and boring. But São Paulo is huge. It's like you can't imagine how big it is. You know, it you can be on a bus for I would say about 4 hours. Just get on one bus for 4 hours, and you wouldn't be out of São Paulo. If you started all the way at the extreme east of São Paulo, and if there was a bus that could just go all the way
Yeah.
down to where we are, that's 4 hours. Yeah, easy. 4 hours easy. And you'd still be like in a good chunk of the city. You still have a good chunk of the city left. So Shylon, there's a lot to explore here, which is why I like the city because it's not there's a little bit for every taste. So let's move along. I love that everybody's joining us tonight, and
Indeed.
I hope you're enjoying the content here. And remember, next week, well, not next week because we do this bi weekly. So in 2 weeks, we'll be joining the dark side of the force, and we'll be talking about the things we don't like about Brazil. And there are many, there's good and bad everywhere. Working the jeitinho is something that I put as number five, is that sometimes disorder works in your favor. So the jeitinho is what you can translate as like the Brazilian way, like this flexibility and slyness of the culture. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, it can be a pain in the butt, especially if you're just trying to get serious business done that needs to be exact and it needs to be on time. But it works to your favor when you're just trying to have a good time. And I mean, I've gone into clubs where the price was 70, but we did a
Mm-hmm.
jeitinho where we stuffed five people in there for like 20. Just the way you talk to somebody, the way, oh no, we'll bring some beers or we'll drink a lot when we go in there. There's always, I mean, I did the jeitinho just this Saturday when I was playing because I didn't want to buy another shot of whiskey. So I would just talk to the guy the right way, and I was like, no, I don't want the full shot. Like, just give me like one little pinky length, or width of the whiskey. And he's like, yeah, okay, 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 you know. And you can always get something done some type of way. You figure out how to get someplace that you don't have enough money to go to or get to. Even with like renting a place. Like I live in a cute little house down here, and technically, I could have only rented this place if I went through a realtor or a not a realtor. It is through a realtor, but if I had like a fiador, which is really difficult to find in Brazil. A fiador is basically like a guarantor, so he's going to guarantee that you're going to pay the rent. Otherwise, they're going to charge him or her what you don't pay, or something that's
Mm-hmm.
called Porto Seguro, which is this weird insurance where you pay this company like almost three times the rent. They ensure that you're gonna be a good payer, but then you never get that money back. I was like, I don't have a fiador, and I don't want to give this company money. So I just kind of talked my way into it. I was like, look, I can pay 3 months up front. I can do this. This goes back to SVAR. So, those that
Mm-hmm.
didn't appreciate it, man, that's what we were talking about. Uh, so the jeitinho is there for your benefit when sometimes even something like the alarm didn't wake you up at the right time. It's something that does happen because we had a power outage this morning. I was in the middle of a class and it's boom, no power for like 5 minutes. You figure it out. Look, I can't start at 5. You think we can do it at 5:30, or this Monday is going to be real rough. You think we can change it to when? Man, Brazilians are super flexible. In fact, they have a term for it in Portuguese, which is jogo de cintura, a term that I really like because it literally means you got to have like a waist game. Your waist means you gotta know how to samba a little bit. Shake those hips, weave and bob your way from point A to point B. That's Brazil. It's a pain in the ass, like I said, if you're trying to get stuff done that's very exacting. It needs to be on time. It needs to be XYZ. But other times, use it to your favor. How do you feel about the jeitinho, Pete? Does it frustrate you, or do you work with it?
Yeah, it doesn't actually. I mean, I think that's my work life for the most part. But the thing is, when you have this flexibility, you also have in the back of your head, make hay while the sun is shining. So you you really don't turn anything down because you don't know when you're going to get these opportunities again. So I find myself perhaps not taking as much advantage of the flexibility as I probably could because I don't want to say no to anything. I'm like, fuck, cram it in there, man. Um, a good example tomorrow. I've got this new class I've started. I don't know how long it's going to last because the guy's kind of a disaster. but he wanted classes at 11, and I have a class at 12, and it's like, man, that means like no lunch until like 1 o'clock. Like that's pretty shitty. But I couldn't say no, like it's like 2 classes a week, you don't know when these opportunities are going to stop coming, so you kind of have to say yes to everything.
Mm.
um, in terms of the flexibility in other aspects of life besides work, I don't know that it's worked a lot for me. Actually, I kind of regret not discussing this when we had our buddy on last time, because it was totally a case of like the art of the deal. When I moved into the place I'm living in now, she wanted 850 for it. I talked her down to 800, and then I realized the place didn't have a laundry machine. And she's like, well, for 50 bucks a month, I'll do your laundry and clean your place. And I was like, okay. So she got what she wanted. She got her 850.
Yeah.
But, I also got cleaning and laundry service. So it's like, okay, I guess we both win. But
Yes.
yeah, I think that's really more of a topic for our last broadcast, because that was the entire point.
She
Is
got the jeitinho on you, man. She hit you with the jeitinho. And you
yep,
didn't even
yep,
realize it. She was smart.
yeah, yeah. No, but I have to say I do like cleaning and laundry service. It's nice
No,
that
it is
those
nice.
are
I
two
just bought a
things
washing
that.
machine,
Oh
so it's
wow,
definitely nice. Um, Travelmatic asks, how much will a one-bedroom run you in São Paulo? Like I was saying before, São Paulo's huge, so it really depends on the neighborhood. But
yeah,
I see running between 1,000 and 1,500. You can find it for cheaper if you're a little bit further away from the center.
yeah.
But that's a reasonable price. I usually not more than 2,000 unless you go to like a ritzy neighborhood.
I
Then
think
you
in
can get those
Jardine
studios.
Bonfagoli, you can get them for like around 900. But you got to keep in
Yeah.
mind, like these are unfurnished apartments, so
Yes, they're
you're going to have to
unfurnished.
furnish everything. You're going to pay all the utilities, and a lot of these buildings actually have building fees, quote unquote, that they use
Yes.
to pay the maintenance men and the security, who are often useless. I know a lot of people who live in buildings with security say they've had bicycles stolen from inside the building. So, but yeah, you whatever your official rent is, what you're paying in monthly expenses can easily double that.
I'm looking here. I don't know how current this is, but I'm looking at a real estate site, and it's yeah, basically what we said. Uh, it said here, yeah, Centro about 900. Oh, these are all in Centro, but it's about those prices, so it's like going from that price up. I don't know when this was written, but that's basically the price. Oh, there you go. It's even got a little map, the regional. Oh, yeah, look, Jardim Paulista, Pinheiros, Vila Madalena, those are more expensive neighborhoods, Aldo de Pinheiros.
Yeah.
So, yeah, about 1,400 reais. So the exchange rate is great. So you're paying about $200, so if you're coming down here. We're in Butantan. That's where I live, right here.
Mm-hmm.
556 is the medium price, guys, but because Butantan is huge, Butantan is about the size of Boston, just the neighborhood, just so you get an idea. It's got about 300,000 people living down here in a lot of favelas. So that price is 556 because we're getting the medium price. I pay closer to 1,000 for you know a decent place. It's 3 rooms.
Oh yeah, you got
Um,
a good sized place actually.
yeah.
But it doesn't
Um,
have any. It doesn't have anything. That's that's the problem with your place.
yeah, no, but
Your cooking facilities are pretty bare bones.
yeah, exactly. But that's okay. Like I didn't want I wanted an unfurnished place. Moema is a very expensive neighborhood. That was one of the first neighborhoods I lived in São Paulo. And at the time, I was paying like 1,200 reais. Again, I'm talking reais, not dollars, for a kitchenette. which was about the cheapest you could get at the time in Moema. Moema is more expensive. Itaim Bibi is an expensive neighborhood, but you start moving down here, Morumbi, Butantã, Lapa. That's where our friend Jeffrey lives. So shout out to Jeffrey. Liberdade. This is all the central region over here. That gets a little bit
Hmm.
cheaper. It's a little bit more. It's a little sketchier depending where you are. So that reflects on the price. And then you get the
Yeah.
east side of the city, which is a little bit cheaper. Moca, Belém. And then Santana is moving towards the north side, which is a real nice neighborhood, Santana. So that's those are, again, I can't seem to find when this was written, but just from looking at Facebook posts and stuff like that, it seems like the prices haven't changed that much. But I don't see
No.
a date on here. So, I hope that answers your question. But with the dollars, although I'll give you a tip, if you guys are coming down short term, um, I would suggest getting an Airbnb because usually contracts are a year, sometimes longer. Usually they're more than a year though. They're like 14, 15-month contracts. So it might not be worth it, You get yourself a nice furnished Airbnb and you can stay long term in some of these Airbnbs. And the price range is similar, you're not going to get that much more. Guru Indiano, yes, everything around Parque Ibirapuera is expensive. I know because that's where I
Hmm.
used to live. And a little boring. I mean, the park's nice, but there are no. We were talking at the beginning about live music and cultural things, and Moema has none of that. It just got really boring real quick.
They do have a
Among
really famous swinger club there, though.
there are swinger clubs. There's not just one. There's quite a few,
Yeah.
and uh, a famous blues bar, like a New Orleans bar. I forgot what it's called now, but it's. I mean, the food's not good though. I mean, if you're from New Orleans, don't eat there. But there's a. It's marketed as a New Orleans bar. I forgot the name now, but they had big names there. Like BB King actually played there once.
Oh, nice.
So they'll have some nice acts that play there. But Moema's just boring, and let's just say it's an interesting place for a person with a little bit more melanin in their body. As in, like you're the only one. You're the only black guy in Moema who isn't parking cars. And I kind of had it when I had it was either two or three police officers just pull their guns on me, and I'd been frisked and searched before in Brazil. Actually,
Hmm.
first time in my life. I never had that happen to me in the U.S. But here in the hood, in the neighborhood of Butantã, they'll frisk you, but they're a little bit more like I don't want to say nice about it, but okay, relatively nice about it. It's just like you just say you're polite to them, they're polite to you. They see you ain't got nothing, go on your way. In Moema, man, it was
I
like
don't know.
SWAT team, SWAT team.
I don't know, man. I had
Oh
like five
yes,
cops pull their guns on me outside your apartment.
I forgot about that. Yes. Well, Pete, but you were crazy. Pete couldn't find my house and was screaming and shouting like a drunk bastard outside some old lady's house. So she called the cops on him. That's like an asterisk on that. But yeah, Guru and John, I know you live in Moema. I mean, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I was there last weekend and I kind of miss it sometimes, but most of the time I'm like, I'm so glad I moved out of here, Like it's just tough to it's tough to it's tough to get cultural stuff down there. It's tough to get to Paulista. Now they have the metro, so I don't want to talk too much about Moema because a lot of people don't know what we're talking about. Um, how about visa requirements type? Sorry, I'm asking all these questions, but I appreciate the perspective. Um, guys, visas to come
Every
down here.
everything is different now. Like
Yeah,
whatever the actual rules were before, like things have changed quite a bit because of COVID. So
travel
you need to
matters.
you need to stay up on that shit.
Um, reach out to me on Facebook. I have a friend that works with the consulate who can probably inform you a little bit better about, what you got to do. I know you got to get your COVID test. I know there's people coming in and out all the time. So the travel restrictions are not, like, it's not like you can't get into the country, but there's probably a lot
I
of stuff
I
that you got to
don't
do.
know. I don't know. I heard on a Facebook group that there are apparently no flights between the U.S. and Brazil now. So it might
Well,
actually depend on where you are.
I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, I got a few people coming in, man. I got a few people that I know that are coming
Okay.
in. So, that's why I
I
don't want to.
could have been misinformed, but yeah,
Yeah,
that
and I
is
don't want to
something
give
that
out misinformation. So if you want, uh, I'm on Facebook. You can find me Phil Ray. Okay, that's me on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm at Phil Ray Music. If you want to dig some tunes, that's me on Instagram. And just reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with some people that'll be able to inform you better. And yes, you are a melanated guy in Moema, and later you can tell us about your experience. uh, Anthony McGrew, look at this boy. Me too. Have been searched by police only one time. I loved it. I wonder what they were searching for and where. So, well, yes, those Brazilian police officers are quite something compared to the American version. The American uh, donut eating, pot belly. You don't know how those guys can run down criminals, which is probably why they shoot them before.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't running after this motherfucker. Pop, pop, pop. But here, man, these guys look like they could all be running gyms. One thing that I do love about Brazil, street art. Art is not only for museums, and here's a
Mm.
picture that I took of this cool little piece here on that I saw on the street. But man, oh man, those of you that follow the channel know that I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia because I grew up in South Jersey, which is like just across the river. And Philadelphia is famous for its murals. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's got the most murals of any city in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so I grew up with street art. I grew up just uh, completely amazed by the artistry of the street artists, from the graffiti to the murals to the. We had something in Philly called the. Oh God, it's been so long now. It was the Glass Castle or something. Anyway, it was this guy who made his front yard and his house from like shards of glass. It was gorgeous. So I like this. I like the idea of art is for everyone. You don't have to just
Mhm.
be pay $100 to go to like this exclusive exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art, and now you're like this highfalutin little bitchy art connoisseur. No, art's for everyone. If you can get to Paris and see the Mona Lisa, which I did, do it.
I
It's
did as well.
wonderful. Okay? Hey, I don't mind the chic life at all. I got nothing against it. But, dude, art should be out there for everybody to see. Whether it's even if it's just the way the buildings are made. Actually, Mosby is a real interesting building. Um, uh,
Yeah.
oh, I forgot the name of the architect now. Lobardo, I believe her name was. She was a brutalist artist. So she has a few very famous buildings in the city with this. The brutalist style is that very hard concrete style of architecture, which I
Yeah.
happen to like a lot.
There's
And
another one a
so
lot like that on Itay Bibi as you're heading out to Conagonias Airport. There's a building that it looks like a giant glass version of one of the
mhm.
Jawas sand crawlers from Star Wars, and it's on stilts. It's like this weird glass stilt building.
I
But
love
yeah,
it. I
there's a
love
lot
it.
of creative architecture here.
The architecture and, like I said, just the murals are fucking amazing. Like,
Yeah,
and that's why I
got a
brought
nice
up.
one. I got a
I'm
nice
sorry.
one across from my house. When I open my window every day, I get to look at Marilyn Monroe across the street. She's
Ooh,
actually
nice.
painted on a mural like directly across the street from my place. So
This
yeah,
is great.
lots of cool
Great.
history there.
And Cobra is the famous muralist from Brazil, and he's done stuff even in the U.S. He's world famous, Cobra. So you see a lot of his work here in São Paulo and other cities of Brazil, and it's just dazzling for the eyes. And that's the reason, by the way, why I brought up Philly, because hey, it brought me back home. You know, a lot of times people say São Paulo is like the New York of Brazil, and I'm like, no, it isn't. I mean, New York is fucking insane. New York is New York. Don't fuck with New York. Philly is a little bit more like São Paulo, a little bit more like Philly. It's a very neighborhoody city. Although São Paulo is huge, but it's made of these little neighborhoods with the little row homes, and like yes, there's a part where you're gonna get a bunch of tall buildings, but they're not even that tall, you know, because there's like building restrictions, I think, as far as how tall buildings can be. So when I'm walking around Pinheiros, when I'm walking around, well, I don't like Vila Madalena that much, but if I happen to be there, I'm like, oh, this is like being, you know, down South Street, down South Philly, looking at all these nice, or going up towards North Philly, seeing all these beautiful murals everywhere and beautiful street art. So I love that about Brazil and every city that I travel to. I just went to Campinas a couple months ago. Found some gorgeous parks with some beautiful, beautiful monuments and metal artwork. Everything, everything, everything. Now, this might be a topic that Anthony will get into and Shyla, which is hooking up. If you can't get lucky in Brazil, you're a chump. I'm saying it. You are a chump if you can't get laid in Brazil. Because, dude, it's just everything's so open and so amor uh and um I mean, just there's a lot of body contact going on in Brazil.
Hmm.
Now, of course, you got to, as if we need to say this, but hey, you got to respect the women and the men, okay? Respect. It's a hot country, it's a tropical country. So, yes, people are going to be walking around with less clothes, right? Doesn't mean touchy grabby, right? But at the same time,
Right.
people are very willing to do touchy grabby. Once you get the go signal, man,
Yes.
it's time for action. And like in most Latin cultures, sex and sensuality are an undercurrent of everyday life. So you go, it's so weird. Like you watch, Pete, have you ever had the misfortune of being in somebody's house on a Sunday morning and they have the TV on and they have like the family lunch, you know, with the little kids are 5 and 10, and then you turn on the TV, so much of these butt ass, you know, almost butt ass naked women fighting, like doing like mud wrestling in the pool, and a bunch.
Um, yeah, I haven't had this experience, but one of my students told me about a show that they used to have here on Sunday afternoons called Banheiro de Gugu. I don't think
Yes.
that, yeah, I don't believe that it was actually a show. It was like a segment of a larger variety program.
Yes.
But it's a show where men and women wrestle in an inflatable pool over a bar of soap. And apparently, like this is what when the family was making Sunday dinner, they just like parked the kids in front of this to watch while the adults were busy getting the food ready. And there's some great clips of it on YouTube. It's fuck shit, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I came here, I was like, "What?" I do have. Look, I have a little thing here. Some because Anthony just said something interesting, which is I agree. Getting laid is no problem. Just the aftermath is. There's usually an agenda that boys. So, guys, there are some cultural differences. Brazilians are much more apt to kiss you and stay by your side the rest of the night. As a hookup, that doesn't mean there'll be sex or a phone call the next day. Um, Now, if there is sex, know that the concept of a one night stand is not really popular here as it is abroad. It does happen because, you know, there's been a lot of changes in the last 10 years here. As for women and blacks, you know, they've kind of gotten their shit together a little bit more. So you get a lot more women who are willing to explore their sexuality and not feel negative about it afterwards, which is a good thing. So it happens a little bit more. but it's still a very Catholic country, a very conservative country in a lot of ways. And kissing, and it maybe even oral, it's like okay. But if you actually
It's
have
very, yeah,
sex, it that's where Mr. Anthony, he put it down. He laid down the law. There's the agenda afterwards, or and not even just an agenda. It's just they feel like, well, we had sex. I guess now we're a couple, and you're like, you know. And next day, it's like, well, I had this happen to me. I had somebody basically live in my house for 2 months. I could not get rid of this motherfucker because
I
we
had that
fucked.
experience in China, man.
Yes. Um, and it's I saw that on YouTube, but I thought it was something crazy they were doing with soap. Uh, there you go, Travelmatic. He was talking about the goo goo. So you got to be careful with that. You know, if you do go all the way, know that. Then remember we were saying at the beginning that friendships here are for the night. You know, you have fun, you get drunk,
Yeah.
and then you may not see that person again. That may not be the case if you have sex. You got to see what level that girl's on. And I actually have a friend here. She's Brazilian. Her name, well, I won't say her name, but she went to England, and she felt so bad because she didn't get what a one night stand was. You know, because there she went out to a club or whatever, did her thing, which is fine. You know, she had sex with the guy, and then the guy never called her, and she's like, "What? What did I do?" And she couldn't
Yeah.
get that it was it's a one night stand. Like, yeah, like I'm gonna fuck you and then goodbye. Because in Brazil it's not as common, but they'll kiss you, which is weird because
Yes.
from an American culture, like we're not that accustomed to that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we see kissing as that's like really closing a deal because I'm really interested in you. Like after the second, third date, then boom, you know. Although things are moving a much faster now than when I was on the dating scene, but still, the kiss is that something special. There's songs about kissing, and how romantic and special it is. Um,
Exactly. You can't pay for a kiss, right? You can
exactly,
pay for sex. You can't pay for a kiss.
exactly. So I had this experience once with this girl, and it was so bad. I sometimes my mouth gets me in trouble. Oh, not sometimes, but we met. I really liked her. Walked her to the metro, and she was kind of coming on to me. I was, enjoying the conversation, and then I was like, "Wow, I really like this girl. I want to see her again." That's the thought that was running through my head. And then she asked me, "Oh, so what do you think about kissing?" And I bluntly said to her, I said, I think that's one of the most, I think I said it's kind of, I think it's one of the most disgusting things about,
I
it
actually had a girl. I actually had
was
a girlfriend who
disgusting.
never kissed me.
No, but I said to her, eu acho um pouco estranho e nojento. I said, I think it's kind of weird and nasty that you guys kiss like everybody here. Like, aren't you afraid of diseases and stuff? Like, man,
Yeah.
surprise, surprise,
Yeah.
we didn't see each other again.
No, I see. I got weird hangups about that. That's one of the things I like about Brazil because I had a girlfriend for like 6 months in Thailand who wouldn't kiss. She had this issue about mouth germs. Like everything else was okay, but kissing, ooh, gross. So yeah, I actually kind of like that aspect of Brazil that they just kind of hand them out, especially during Carnival, man.
Oh,
Carnival's like
Carnival.
a kiss party, man.
Exactly. You go,
Yeah,
eu beijei, or if you go to the gay parade, eu beijei 50 hoje. I kissed like 50 guys. I'm like, you kidding me?
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
weird because for me, it's like I'll have sex with somebody before I kiss them. Like I don't
yeah.
feel like there's as many fluids being exchanged. You can wrap it up, you do your thing, Boom.
Yeah.
But I don't have the courage to just go out to a party and just start kissing person after person after person. That's how you get the sniffles, like I got today,
Yeah,
last
well,
week.
that's why Brazil's been wiped out by COVID, actually.
Yes,
I'm sure.
because it came right at Carnival. You're
It
right.
did.
That's
It
when it
came right in
started.
the middle of Carnival, yes.
Yes. Oh boy. Um, Guru Indiano Esvar said, "While I have no problem with hands-on approach of Brazilians, it's kind of weird how they do it at their workplaces. Yes, there's a lot of kissing and hugging and stuff like that that goes on in the workplace. Brazil's just more open, guys. Just
Yeah.
just get with it.
I
Enjoy it for what it is."
I actually had a student introduce me to his boss, and like it was the first time I'd met her, and like right away she moved in for the kiss, and I was still kind of new to Brazil at the time, so I flinched a bit, and she wound up getting me right on the eye. It was so gross, man. Big
Yes.
slobbery wet one right on the eye.
Well, yeah, my first kiss is on the cheek. That's common though, guys. It's not a sexual kiss, the kiss on the cheek. Some Paulos usually one, some places it's two, some places it's three. And it's
Yeah,
just, it's just how they say hello. I haven't been kissed on the cheek in a long time because I think people just got that. Like, I don't even like to hug people.
yeah.
So I think they just kind of got it. And now with COVID, I'm like, okay, good. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Um, Let me see. Well, I have no problem with yeah. So in the workplace, Anthony said that we are always considered rich. There is that with some expats and Brazilians. Be careful to not start getting mail at your address from someone you dated. I got a story about that, Anthony McGrew, but it's in a book I just finished writing and will be published soon. So you got to buy my book. I'm not going to say any more about that. But I did have a stalker down here in Brazil. Number 8, we're almost at the end of this list. I thought tonight was going to be a quick show because we're like, hey, we didn't have a guest. We're just going to kind of BS a little bit. But you guys have been wonderful. So thank you for staying on. And we're just going to roll right along. I got 10 on this list. So we're at number 8 here.
All right.
And the
Let's
thing,
move it along because Petey's got to work tomorrow.
so do I. That's why I thought, Pete, we're like, oh, we're going to be on for like 30 minutes. Nobody's going to log in. And then, we got a whole bunch of people here. So you got to make the people happy, Pete. Um, the mix of people. That's something that I love about Brazil. Okay. The face of Brazil are the faces of Brazil. And coming from the US, that's a melting pot where I get a little slice of everybody. I love that in Brazil I get a little slice of everybody. A lot of other countries are very how do you say that, homogenous, and
Yes.
the in Brazil isn't. You go to the deep south and all of a sudden it's like you went to Germany. You go to the deep north and it's like you're meeting people that have a lot of indigenous blood in them. In the middle you get all the blacks. In the Right where we are, you get the Japanese because Brazil is the country with the most Japanese outside of Japan. You get all the
Yeah.
Italians, and I'm pretty sure Brazil's maybe second to the U.S. as far as the amount of Italians that are down here. You get Arabic. I mean, that's not just since Syria happened. I mean, it's since forever. There's like a whole bunch of Lebanese and Moroccan. No, maybe not Moroccan, but definitely Lebanese down here. So Brazil is like you can't say, "Oh, you look like a Brazilian." What does a Brazilian look like? A Brazilian
Yeah.
has so many faces, and I love it. And I love São Paulo for that. São Paulo is such a multi-racial city, and it's not just from people that are descendants from all over the world, but even people that have come from other parts of Brazil because it is the nucleus, it is the place that people go to make work, to try to start
Yes.
that new life. So
Yes. And
I
there
can
is
go
the
to
Caribbean
Santa
influence here as well.
Caribbean. Oh, and
Yeah.
also a lot of African now. So you get a lot of nice
Yeah.
African restaurants. You get Nigerian. You get there's a restaurant here even from is it Zimbabwe? I forgot now. But you get a lot of Ghana. You get a lot of African influence now here in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And if I go to like Santo Amaro, little neighborhood here, it's like I went to the Nordeste. I went to the Northeast. That's where you get all your spices, by the way. In Santo Amaro, they even have the guys playing like the accordion in the middle of the street. It's like there there's not just one Brazil. You get the Korean neighborhood here in the north side.
Hmm.
You know, bunch of Indians here now.
Yes,
So
yes.
they're building their community. How is race relations in Brazil? Black men with fair skin, Euro Brazilian women. Man, we got to get a show on that because that's a deep question and something it's been asked before. How is race relations in Brazil? Quick answer is that Brazil pretends that it's not a racist country, and you can get in a fight with a Brazilian if you tell them that it is a racist country because they'll say it's not, and they'll point to the U.S. because they burned some crosses in the U.S. and they were lynching people, and they'll say, "Look, that's racist. We're not racist." But then you walk down the street and you see what black people where their spots are, white people where their spots are, black people what their opportunities are, white people what their opportunities are, and it's like a clear division, and it's like just ingrained in the fabric of the country. So for me, Brazil is much more racist than in the US. I know some people may disagree with that,
Yeah, it was
including
shocking to
Latif.
hear Latif say that he
Yeah,
completely disagreed with that.
yes, I didn't even say anything because we already had a back and
Yeah,
forth. I'm like, I'm just gonna
yeah.
let him say his piece. I totally disagree, though. For me, we have a little bit of privilege down here as people of color who are from outside Brazil, so we may not feel it as much. We have a little bit of inability to sidestep it because of just our knowledge, our capacity to deal with it a little bit more. Because we'll look anybody right in the eye and tell them, you know, don't like whatever bullshit you're trying to roll ain't gonna roll on me. So we have that ability way more than black Brazilians do. They're a little bit more subservient in that case, but it's there. It's like clear as day. I know it's there. Like when I go to work in a Brazilian high school and there are no black kids that I teach. Maybe I think I've had like one or two in the 3 years that I've worked there. And it's clearly there are opportunities for some folks. There are not the same opportunities for others. So when it comes to marriage, that's a whole other topic because Brazil actually had a program of intermixing in order to lighten the race.
Yeah.
um, and this is documented. They were given out. Speaking of visas, Travelmatic, there were visas given to people from Europe. Come to Brazil, fuck these women, please. Get them a little bit lighter. And that's something that still carries over to today. A black woman will be with a white guy to marry up. That a black woman with a white man to marry up. It's seen as like, yeah, I did it.
But
My
you don't
kids are
see it
gonna.
as much the other way, though.
Of course, because um, a white woman with a black guy, you're gonna get a little. It's difficult to find a black guy who's got a little bit of money, and that white woman is not marrying up; she's marrying down, and she's marrying a black guy. The kid, she's gonna have a darker kid. The idea is
Right,
a black woman marrying a white guy to have a lighter kid. You know,
right.
yeah, you don't see it as much the other way, but and it's tricky because we do have interracial. I'm all for interracial relationships, and it becomes kind of a tricky topic sometimes because of that, because you do have that historical side of it, and that side that has kind of brainwashed the Brazilians into thinking that marrying light is marrying right. But then I can't say that, hey, if a black person meets a white person and they happen to fall in love, that isn't true love. And it's something that's discussed a lot. I'm in a black LGBT group, And that's something that they talk about a lot because there are people that are very much against it. They call that palmitaging. Palmito is heart of palm. So black guys who will
Yeah.
only date white guys, only be with the white guys all the time, but they're never with another black guy. And other people are like, yeah, that kind of sucks, but at the same time, yeah, sometimes you do meet somebody that's white and you happen to fall in love, and what can you do? So it's much different in the U.S. because in the U.S. It's much less interracial. Um, it was against the law for a long time, but in Brazil, man, it's still seen, for a black woman if she can find a white guy who's got that money power, she's marrying up, having lighter kids. Actually, the black kids that I do teach in my school, you can tell that they're mixed. So I'm sure that that's a fruit of that. And it is what it is. And but they'll say, the average Brazilian will say, "Oh, but we're not racist. Look, there's black and white couples. There's black and white couples, and there's like beautiful multi uh, colored kids." And it's like beautiful. I mean, the kids are gorgeous, right? But where did that come from? Where's all that coming from? That it's so insistent, that it's so difficult. At least I don't, Pete. I mean, how many couples do you see that are black black? I don't see that many. I see more in the last couple years, but I don't see that many. You know, Maybe it's
Oh,
different in
well,
Bahia.
I told you, yeah, well, I'm sure in Bahia it's
Yeah.
totally different. But I mean, I told you about that couple that I had. There were students. They were a married
Mm-hmm.
couple, and I taught them separately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Oh
think I've
yes.
actually ever been. Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever been in the room with them at the same time. And they were both, Brazilian mixes, but dark skinned. Like they passed. They were
Mm-hmm.
black. And the wife totally identified as black. As far as she was concerned, she was a black woman, largely because her mother was like 100% black and she had to deal with a lot of racist bullshit. And she empathized with her a lot. Whereas her husband identified as a white person, which he still was not. Like no other white person, especially someone with racist tendencies, would be like, that's a white person. I wouldn't have pegged him as black either, though. I would just peg him as like a dark skinned person, maybe Indian. But yeah, no, like their sense of identity was completely different. And that's the
Yes.
thing, is that so many people here are such mixes. They just choose to identify with one ethnic group rather than another, when in fact almost everybody is a mix of something.
Yes. No, I think that at least it's about 50% of the Brazilian population does not identify as white, but the what do you call it? What's that expression? It's in the details. The truth here, because it's only about 10, between 5 and 10%. I forgot now the exact number, who identify as Afro descendant. Which it would be black, like I got no mix,
Right.
I got nothing in me. So there's a whole chunk of the Brazilian populace who doesn't necessarily identify themselves as black or Afro descendant, and they just don't identify as white. And then from there, yeah, you can have somebody. It's weird. I mean, I've spoken to um, Brazilians that wouldn't pass as white in Europe or America who say I'm white. Others who wouldn't, who look white, but then they identify as black. And it's like, it's a mix. It's crazy. I don't even want to think too much about it. Uh,
Yeah.
yes. And here we go. We're almost done here. There are Brazilian families where siblings born to the same couple come out in different colors. This is true. This is true. My own family is like that. Yeah. My one sister's very dark. The other one's not as dark. So it does happen. Look at the commercials now. They always have a black male and a white woman with their mixed son or daughter advertising whatever product. They want that mixing, man. So let's get down here to the end. And, well, music. We talked a little bit about music in the beginning, but this is more specifically music itself. Brazilian music is world class, and Pete really broke it down, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. At the beginning, we're talking about how you can get a lot of free music here, live music.
Hmm.
But if you just want to listen to good music, and I know a few people that don't like Brazilian music, I don't get it, but to each their own.
All our guests have been terrible in the music department. Every time we ask them, "What's your favorite Brazilian band?" they're like, "I don't listen to Brazilian music." It's like, what the
Yeah,
hell, man?
I don't get it because it's pretty damn good. From the And speaking of a lot of flavor, because we complained a little bit about Brazilian food at the start that there not as that much variety, but there's a whole lot of variety of Brazilian music
Oh hell yeah!
from the traditional stuff, which would be like the forró, which is coming up by the way with the Festa Junina is coming up, which I love,
Hmm.
from the sambas and pagodes, from the sertanejo, when you get the cheesy pop sertanejo, just like you do have cheesy country pop music in the US. But you have that hard, real roots country music down here, just like you get in the US. You have your bluegrass and your Johnny Cashes of the world, Dolly Partons of the world. So you get that good
Hmm.
sertanejo. You have rock and roll, Hockey Nacional, which Pete is a big fan
Hmm.
of all the
Yeah.
good rock bands down here. You have the uh, MPB, which is Brazilian pop music, which is people like Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil, which are very famous worldwide, Milton Nascimento. Um, so you get a little bit of everything. And you get your cheesy pop music too. You have your funk
Yeah.
music. I know a lot of people don't
Yeah.
like
The
funk. I
funk
happen to
is
like it.
huge, but
I
yeah.
happen to like funk. You Trap music is big down here now. Brazilian trap I like better than American trap music. It's a little bit more melodic. Um,
Yeah. There's a
there's
good punk
everything.
scene
There's
here as
drag
well.
queen music. There's that
Yes.
drag
Yes.
queen that's very famous now here in Brazil, Pablo Vittar. Um, I don't know. I can't get tired with Brazilian music. It's got a lot of variety.
Oh, it's
Uh,
exhaustive.
yeah, a little bit for everything from the good to the really, really bad, but to the really, really world class good. Milton Nascimento, for me, is one of the greatest musicians in any language, any country. And he's worked with Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, among other great artists. And, well, I can't attest to the veracity of this story, except that I trust the guy who told it, who works as he does soundtracks for commercials, for really nice stuff that he does. And with this work, he's met a lot of famous musicians. And he was in a room with Herbie, and I forgot who else, but Herbie Hancock and a couple other guys. And Milton Nascimento walked in, and he swears that when he walked in, they all kind of just started bowing, the bowing motion to the guy. Incredible musician who mixes pop with rock, with jazz, and also just makes his. I've seen him about 2 or 3 times here, and every time is better than the other. He's an old man now; he's like in his 80s, but really, really incredible artist. So can't go wrong with Brazilian music. I know Pete. Give him your take on Brazilian music.
Well, before talking about artists, I think one of the most amazing things that we had here in Sao Paulo was that festival that we used to have in May. We didn't get it this year. Now I've forgotten its name already, but it was like a
Oh, the
3 day live
Virada Cultural.
Verada Cultural. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, and it would be like 3 days. It was 24 hours. It didn't stop. Like they would have shows going on at 4 in the morning. It was
Yes.
completely free, and they would have stages set up all over the city, although most of the best ones were in Centro and Paulista. And every type of genre of Brazilian music you could think of. You'd have your metal, your funk, your country, your samba, your bossa nova, everything. And these shows were completely free in the streets, live. That's actually been one of my favorite experiences in Brazil was the last Verada Cultural I went to. It was crazy, just like it's like a second carnival almost, just like hopping stage to stage. This band's over, and I mean, you can do that shit for as long as you can stay awake. Um,
Yeah, it's
I
24
it
hours, man. It's a 24-hour
yeah,
party.
yeah. It was so much fun. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the rock, but I think Brazilian rock is kind of unique. They have bands that come from a space not just in terms of musical influence with the samba and the bossa nova and the country and all that stuff, but also the culture, like the things that inspire them to write songs that are completely unique. One band I really like that is a band I'm very lucky to have gotten to see just before COVID hit was Ultraje Oeger, and they're a surf rock band basically, but their lyrical content was largely based on their dissatisfaction with Brazil as a country,
Mm-hmm.
the corruption of the politicians, and the crime and all the other things that can make Brazil an unpleasant thing to experience, which we'll talk about next time. But they have a lot of those themes. Matanza, another band I really like, who somehow managed to combine punk, outlaw country, and metal, which is something I don't think anyone's ever done. Velas Virgins, an amazing band that um, basically has this whole stage show going. Um, a lot of sexual innuendo and wordplay in their lyrics, but their style it's basically blues but with a Brazilian touch. So you have like an endless variety of possibilities in bands to go see and listen to. So yeah, amazing music country.
I agree. I've been showing some pictures of the Virada Cultural as you were talking, and Travel Matic says he's a fan of Brazilian funk, and you know what? I like it too. I know the lyrical content isn't the greatest, and there's some
Yeah,
of the
I'm
funky
not.
that I don't like, some of it that I do. There's different rhythms to funky, and that's another thing. When you get into these bands, like Pete was saying, he was mentioning a lot of good rock bands. Ultraja Rigor actually was my favorite band when I was like 5 years old, man. Like that's how old I am. I remember their
Oh
old
wow.
songs. Like, yeah, I can still sing some of those old songs. But anyway, um, is that within a genre you have all these different styles too? So so even if you get into Brazilian rock, like there's all different styles, and there's always a little bit of a that Brazilian flavor to it. It doesn't sound like
Yeah,
just a copy of, you
that's
know.
the thing about we've mentioned rock national, and
Yeah,
like people don't who aren't familiar with Brazilian music don't appreciate that like what rock national is it's basically like the mainstream 80s rock of Brazil, but it has its own unique sound. Like it's not like the 80s rock of the US or the UK. It's got its own special kind of sound and
yeah,
themes.
yeah, yeah, and it's a great way to learn some Portuguese. Listen to the music, and then to close out the night, because I am a chic bastard. Every once in a while, I like the craziness of the high end places here in Brazil. You know, if you got the money, you can go to some really nice restaurants. Brazil is like a place of contradiction. You can take some um, nice tours and cruises and visit. Like I had dinner once. No, it wasn't dinner. Sorry, wine at the top of Circulo Italia. This real big
Yeah.
building in downtown São Paulo. You have a panoramic view of the city. Okay, across the it was actually wasn't super expensive, but it's not something you want to do every weekend. Um, but it was great. I mean, São Paulo is specifically is a city of these contradictions, rich and poor, you know,
Yes.
the haves and have-nots. But I'm not gonna limit myself. I work my ass off to get where I've gotten and get the shit that I have. So if every once in a while I go to a fancy restaurant or a fancy shopping mall or a nice theater or have drinks on the rooftop terrace of this real nice restaurant,
Mm,
oh my god, it's worth it. And it's in like I said, it is worth it. You get to just splurge and be like the queen for a day, right? Or you can be a queen every day, Andrew. You know, so I like that little aspect of Brazil is that there are places for you to just splurge and live like a king or a queen, which sometimes is the whole point of traveling, right? You want to experience the high life or whatever, and have these different experiences that you probably wouldn't have in your own country. How's the high life for you, Pete?
non-existent, pretty much.
Non-existence. And
Yeah.
what's it's the price of the hookers? Does it go up at some point?
No, actually, that stays pretty much the same. But
Uh,
I don't think you get the same value for your money in Brazil that you do in, say, Europe or even the United States, like,
yeah.
or in Canada. Like, I think in Canada, like, if you're spending top dollar, you're probably getting top dollar service. In
Yes.
Brazil, when you're spending top dollar, you may be getting like the atmosphere and the feeling that you want to pay for, but the service is still going to be shit.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's gonna be shit, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be better service than the regular, which for us, baby, from our perspective, is decent. It's not shit, but it's
Right,
like, oh, it's like a waiter that actually shows up at your table every 10 minutes to see if everything's okay, which
right.
is nice.
Yeah.
Clean floors, clean bathroom, good food. Like
Yeah.
here, Travelmatic said, I went to Fogo de Chão on the north side and ate good for $30, including drinks. Yeah. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, my I think my most high life Brazil experience was actually when a friend of mine from China, he works for Exxon now, and he came to visit me in Sao Paulo. No, he didn't come to visit me; he came here for work. But yeah, we got together, and he had his expense card, and yeah, we totally fucking charged Exxon like for a high level night out, and the this the things that we got, like the rooftop views and the nice martinis and the high quality food, that was all good. But the
Mhm.
service itself was not substantially better.
I got you. Yeah. No, but I feel you. Like here, well, we'll save that for things we hate about Brazil. Let's just say that the customer service isn't a forte in Brazil. It isn't a forte. They aren't rolling carpets out for anybody here. It's like, oh, you
No,
arrived? Good.
yeah,
No
people don't
question.
make any effort to hide the fact that they hate their jobs.
Yes. Yes, this is true. All right, guys. Well, well, well. Good Lord. I want to thank everybody that
Yeah,
came
thanks
on
for
tonight.
listening, guys.
Yeah, from
Valuable
Shyla
input.
and Catherine way back when, all the way down to Craig and Esvar. Anthony, who's always on, is real fun. I love hearing from Anthony. Travelmatic, get in touch with me. I don't know if Sid's still on, but maybe we can try to get the two of y'all to join us next week. Well, again, not next week, in 2 weeks, we will be talking about the things that we hate about Brazil, and we'll be trashing the country, uh,
Yes.
which is fine, guys. I get some people get very offended if you trash Brazil, but hey, there's good and there's bad everywhere in the world.
Well,
Um,
no one trashes Brazil more than Brazilians, so
and that's the
I
thing, and
guess
they're the
it's
ones that
different
get the
when
most
other people
offended.
do it.
And they're the ones that
Yeah,
get
I
most
know.
offended when a foreigner says something like, "Why are the roads so bad? Why are there so many potholes or something?" Yeah, it's like I get. Well, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, it was fun. I am getting addicted. Well, thanks for showing up, as far as very nice to have you on. And good night to all, Anthony. Thank you, man, for always supporting the channel and being on. Share this video with your friends, and let's see if I have the right. Oh, there's my outro music. I love my outro music. Anyway, if you happen to be in Sao Paulo, I will be playing at Central Caos next week. Um, and you can follow me on Instagram at PhilRayMusic. And you can see what I'm up to with music. That's that. Guys, we're out of here. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
cheers. Thank you.
Adios, amigos and amigas.